Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K Collector coming at you on a cool Saturday morning. Was about to get my Ninja Gaiden on when I checked my comments, and I saw a comment from a longtime subscriber, Paul Jacob, and he left a comment on one of my more recent videos where I talked about an Xbox 360 haul that I picked up the other day from GameStop. And as a matter of fact, I had to pull my Xbox 360 out so that I could go ahead and make sure that all of these games work. But I wanted to respond to his comment because Paul has had a lot of bad luck shopping at GameStop. And, he said based on some of my videos that either I work for GameStop or I must know someone or have friends at GameStop. And so I kind of wanted to respond to Paul, his comments, because I know that there are a few other folks who probably feel that same way, depending on what they're experiencing at GameStop. And I want to just offer some insight on my experience at GameStop and what I've learned shopping there over the last few months. And I'm going to take it from two sides. On one side, I'm going to take it from the in-store shopping experience, like going to GameStop or GameStops and buying at their in-store locations. And then also shopping at GameStop online, and then just being able to just provide some examples. So let's start with the in-store shopping experience at GameStop. The first thing that I realized after going to GameStop consistently over a certain period of time is that not all GameStops are the same. That's pretty obvious. I know I didn't give you any groundbreaking information there, but I also know that when it comes to GameStop, location is extremely important. The GameStops that you shop at, the ones that you go to, depending on the city, depending on the location, that is going to play a huge role in the types of games that go there and the quality of the games that go there and the condition of the games that go there, right? So that's part one. Part two is that the games that wind up at GameStop aren't just like in terms of retro games I'm talking about. The retro games that land at GameStop come from two sources. They're either coming from just their backlog stock of retro games that are coming from one of their 3 warehouses, or it's retro games that are being traded in by people in the local neighborhood, like people in the area. Now you have people, I think they call them snipers or whatever they're called. You have people that shop at GameStop consistently enough to know if that GameStop is a GameStop that people trade games at, and they will hang around that GameStop waiting for people to trade their games in so that they can jump in and snipe the games. Either that, or they may know someone at the GameStop and someone tips them off. I don't have a GameStop like that near me. Now, I do have GameStops in my area where people go and trade in their retro games, but for me, it's pretty much the luck of the draw. Now, I go to GameStop very consistently. So, meaning there's a supermarket near, like there's a GameStop near almost like 3 out of the 5 places that I go to run errands, whether it's a supermarket, whether it's the bank, whether it's just going to get some gas. There's so many GameStops near me. There's like 7 GameStops near me where I live. So because of that, no matter what type of errand I'm running, there's always a GameStop close enough for me to just pop my head in to see what's there and then pop out, which is typically what I do a lot, because it's only going to cost me 3 to 5 minutes to run in, check the retro section, and if there's nothing there, I'm gone. Or I'll run in, check the retro section. If there's nothing in the retro section, I might ask whoever's behind the counter, hey, do you guys have any retro stuff? If they don't have any, then I'm gone. So I think the reason why I have luck in store is because I'm very consistent just by default. Like I'm always going there by default. And I'm always going there because it's not much of a time commitment. Because what I'm doing is like 2 minutes away from the GameStop that's near me, I'm able to just go and pop in and pop out. So when you're going to GameStop consistently enough, if you're going there day over day, or even if you're just going there, let's say 3 days a week or 4 days a week, you're bound to get lucky and get there right when new inventory gets there. I don't get lucky all the time, but I feel like I go there enough to get lucky sometimes. Now, there have been times where I've gone to GameStop and I've seen the leftovers of what looks like a big shipment. Like, I'll give you an example. There was a time that I went to a GameStop and there was a really, really dingy copy of like Monkey Ball. It was like the case was thrashed, the cover art was thrashed, and there were a couple other like Snaggletooth GameCube games, but I could tell that there were probably better games there that like someone came and just picked over. And it just so happens that I got there late. So when I asked the person behind the counter, I said, hey, did you guys get any other games earlier today? They were like, yeah, we had Mario Kart Double Dash, we had Pokemon DX. They started telling me all these really expensive GameCube games that someone had come in and picked up, and all they left for me was the torn up Super Monkey Ball. So you win some and you lose some, but I think the name of the game is like consistency. And that's with any location. If you keep going to Goodwill 3 days a week, 4 days a week, you're bound to have a day where you get lucky and you get there just in time to pick up a collection, or pick up something that was either traded in or just shipped in. So in terms of just finding stuff there, that is just random luck. It's just right place, right time. There's no method to the madness outside of just going there consistently enough to get the deal. Now, at some GameStops, have I built relationships? Sure. But do those relationships yield me any benefits in terms of like associates holding games for me? No. Because the GameStops that I go to, they typically have employees that work there that collect video games too. So when a good enough game comes in, the employees there are usually buying them up, and they're not keeping them they're not keeping them in the shelf or in the drawer for me. They're gonna sell those things immediately. So I think the only benefit that I get when it comes to employees is that when I go to a GameStop, they know what I'm looking for. So in some locations, as soon as they see me, they already know like, okay, yeah, we don't have anything in stock. They'll probably just save me the time of having to ask by just saying, hey, we don't have anything new in. Or if I ask, hey, do you guys have any retro stuff? They know what I'm looking for, so they'll just pull out what's available. But no one's holding anything for me. No one's, putting anything aside for me. It's pretty much, again, random luck of the draw. So that just speaks to actually finding games there. Now, the in-store customer service experience, that's something that is going to vary from GameStop to GameStop. And I think I suffer the same pains that Paul has described. I've definitely had some of the issues in the past that Paul has described in some of the comments that he's left on the channel, where you'll go to a GameStop and there are people who are just rude. There are people who are just not knowledgeable. There are people who are like seriously just like space cadets. Like, dude, are you on planet Earth? They seem high. They seem like they're on drugs. They seem just completely spaced out. And then there are people who work at GameStop who are very shady, like very shady in the sense of, like I know a few GameStops where they'll just put protection on your purchase without even asking you. And if you buy like 5 games, they'll put protection on every single game. And next thing you know, you look up and your total purchase is like $9 extra. And I'm like, where's this $9 coming from? And I have to tell them, I don't want protection. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put that on there. It's just a force of habit. I'm so used to doing it. To me, that's shady, because you're trying to force protection. You're trying to force insurance on me that I didn't ask for. I've gone to other GameStops where they at least give you the courtesy of asking you if you want the insurance. And when you say no, they'll literally stand there and argue with you about why you should get it. Oh, come on, get it. Like, I've gotten to the point where people like beg me to get it. Like, come on, just get it. Why don't you just get it? And I'm like, dude, I don't want the insurance. I don't need it. So there have been very bad experiences in terms of dealing with people, right? But I've found my own methods for mitigating the poor customer service or just the knuckleheads that I know are at the GameStops that I go to. And this goes back to me going there consistently enough to know how to shop there. So one, if I go to a GameStop, if I go to like one of the GameStops near me and I see that the employee working is an employee that I just don't gel with or don't vibe with, I don't even engage. I just go, look, see if something is there. And if nothing's there out in the open, I don't even stay. I just leave. If whoever's working there is someone that I know to be competent, who's cool, who isn't going to give me a hard time, who isn't going to try to be shady, then I'll engage with that employee and ask them, hey, what do you have? What's available? And I'll talk to that employee and engage that employee. If I go to a GameStop and I see that they have games that I want, but I'm trying to like work out a deal, I might wait and see if that person's shift is over. And when their shift is over, I might go back when someone else is there and see if I can, not work out a deal, but see if they have any other retro games or anything like that, because you can't really cut deals at GameStop. It's not like you could talk them down on price, but you can at least ask them about what's behind the register, what's behind the counter, things of that nature. So you do have those GameStops where you have shady employees, you have really shady store managers, and then you have some GameStops where you have like the employees are just really anal. Like there's a GameStop that I go to that the dude who works there is like super anal, like just really annoying. Like when you get there, like he just takes the job way too seriously. Like the dude he acts like he's working at a bank or something. It's like, bro, it's GameStop. Like chill out. Like you're not selling insurance, you're not selling like stocks or bonds, you're selling like Mario Kart and stuff. Like chill out. And don't get me wrong, he's really good with like the systems, like he knows how to finesse the systems, and things like that. And he's probably been around for a long time, but he just, he's annoying and because of how anal he is. And so you kind of have to know the employees and know like who to do what with. Now, sometimes you run into employees who are so new, they're not going to be as anal. They're just trying to get the transaction over with. So let's say I order a bunch of stuff from online that I want to return because it didn't come in the condition that I liked, or it didn't come in, it didn't come with the case and manual, or let's say it was slightly damaged. I'm not gonna try to return that at a GameStop where I know the employees are anal. Because I'm setting myself up for a fight. Like I'm not gonna do that. But if I have something that I want to have an easy return, I'm just gonna go to the GameStop where either the employees are new, they're young, or they're so spaced out that they're not even, and this is gonna sound bad, but they're not even paying attention to that. They're just gonna do the transaction and not ask questions because they're like just trying to move on. Because you have employees at GameStop that GameStop is their life. That's their career, so they take it very seriously. You have some employees who just genuinely don't care. They're just trying to get through the day. They just want to check. And what I find is that dealing with the employees who are just looking for a check is a lot easier because they're not gonna haggle you. They're not gonna hit you with these stipulations. They're not gonna hit you with the BS. They're not gonna say, well, this is against our rules. They're just usually gonna get the transaction done so they can get you out the store. And if I have to do a transaction at a GameStop that I know could lead to red tape BS, I'm just gonna go to a store where I know everyone is laid back and people just don't care like that. And usually those are going to be the stores where the employees are not gamers. They don't even care about video games. They're usually sitting there on their phone. They're usually talking about something else. They're not really into the game, so they don't know. They're not aware. They're just trying to, like I said, collect a check. So that's kind of how you have to navigate it in terms of, and it's sad, right? Because optimally, you would be able to go into any GameStop and have the same experience at every GameStop. That's what it should be. Unfortunately, that's not what it is. And here's the kicker. Here's the final punchline when it comes to shopping in store. When you only have 1 or 2 GameStops within a 50-mile radius of you, you don't have options. You can't navigate GameStop like that because you don't have the different locations to really hit like that. Like I said, in my area, there's 1, 2, three, four, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's about 6 or 7 GameStops within 20 minutes of me. So when you have 7 GameStops to choose from, you can play those types of games and you can pick and choose which GameStop you're gonna go to on any particular day. You know what I mean? You could even buy a game at one GameStop and return it at another GameStop without it really ruining your day because they're so close together. So when you have those options, when you go to GameStop consistently, and when you know how to navigate the employees, and when you can pick up on who's gonna give you a harder time or just how to navigate some of the nuance, I think that's how you kind of beat some of the BS that you deal with in the stores. And that's more of my answer to that for Paul, just with how I navigate the in-store GameStop experience. All of the finds and games that I find, that's all luck. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. But then how I go about picking them up and dealing with the nonsense, and if it doesn't work, that's a whole nother side, which I just explained. Now let me deal with the online side, because the online side is a completely different navigation process altogether, in my opinion. And you guys can let me know down in the comments, but that's a completely different process. So when it comes to online, right, purchasing GameStop games online, I typically try to stay away from games that require a case and a manual. I try my best to only purchase cartridge-based games that I'm okay buying loose cart, whether that be Sega Genesis games, Super Nintendo games, NES games. That's typically what I try to buy. If I do buy a disc-based game, I buy it knowing that there's a high probability I will not get a case and a manual with it, right? And so it depends on the game that I'm buying, and it depends on the price of the game. So if there's a game that they have online that is $120 loose on eBay, but they have it on their website for $65, I don't mind buying that game at $65 from GameStop's website for 2 reasons. One, as a pro member, I know I'll get some coupons and I'll get some discounts that I can apply to it, which will bring the price down. But 2, I'll probably be able to find a case and manual on eBay and complete the game and get it, and wind up getting it at 35 to 40% off, because I bought the disc at such a discounted rate that getting the case and manual will still have me under market value, right, for the game. So that's one thing that I do. The other thing that I do is I obviously wait for the promotions. Buy 2, get 1, 4 under 20 for 40. All those promotions make buying things loose disc more worthwhile, because then the savings that I get from those promotions, I can just then get the loose disc and then just get a case and manual to complete it. An example of that would be my copy of Def Jam Fight for New York, which I got for free during the buy 2, get 1, but then I went online and bought a case and manual for $30. At that point, it's worth it, because I was able to get the game for free from GameStop, and then the case and manual only cost me $30, so I got a complete in-box copy of Def Jam Fight for New York for $30. So that's how I leverage their online store. Now there are cases where and then the other thing too is I'll buy in bulk, right? I'll buy a bunch of stuff in bulk, and then whatever I don't want, I'll just take it back and return it. Now, when it comes to returning stuff, and I think this is where Paul Jacob, you run into a lot of issues, is with your returns, you have to find a location that either has a store manager or has store employees that are going to not give you a hard time with returns. I bought, I want to say during their last buy 2, get 1, I spent like $700. Actually, what was it? Yeah, on their last buy 2, get 1, right? I spent $700 on GameStop's website buying different bundles of games, but I was buying them in bundles of 3. So I had like 6 different transactions, because I wanted to make sure that every game that I purchased was around the same price, so that I could get so that the free game was pretty much the same cost as the other 2 games I was buying. Because if I bought all 12 games and the most expensive game was $100 and the cheapest game was $12, well, guess what? I'm only going to get $30 off if the 3 cheapest games are $10 a piece. But if I bought 3 $100 games in one separate transaction, well, then one of those $100 games is free. Long story short, I did that, and I wound up having to return some of those games. And when I did that, I took it into a GameStop store, and initially the employee tried to make it seem like he wasn't going to be able to return it. He was like, man, I'm not going to be able to return it, yada, yada, yada. But I just, at that point, I kind of just stood my ground, and I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. I've made returns at other GameStops before. I don't see why I can't do one here. And a lot of times it really just, when it comes to the employees that start to try to give you a hard time, you just kind of have to hit them with facts sometimes, because they can do it. If a GameStop employee tells you that they can't take a return in store, that's bullcrap, because I've had GameStop employees return stuff, online stuff for me all the time. They might tell you that you have to call and you have to deal with this and deal with that, but I feel like a lot of that just boils back to the store employee or the store manager and how much they're willing to work with you as a customer. And you're gonna have different experiences, right? Like, there are some stores that there are some employees that I'm not even gonna try that with, because I know that they're just gonna be very anal and they're gonna give me a hard time. But there are some stores where I know, even if they're bending the rules, they'll just be like, well, you know what, I'm just gonna do it because they're trying to give you a good customer experience. And some employees do care about that. Some employees, they play things by the book. They're super anal. They're all about the rules, and they're so about the rules to a point where they give you a poor customer experience, and that's what sucks. You just kind of have to find a store where the employees or the store manager values you having a better experience than BS rules that everyone knows GameStop employees bend and break all the time anyway. So, that's really just the best way now that I know how to navigate it. Now, with this bundle of pickups that I made the other day, when you talk about things like, because I bought all these games at different stores, but the bulk of them, I got them at one store. And there was a girl there who, when I got there, I saw pretty much most of these games on the shelf. Like, bulk of these games are sitting on the shelf. But once I saw these, I knew that there was stuff behind the counter that they hadn't put out yet. So the girl actually brought out Metroid Prime Trilogy for me, because I asked, I was like, do you guys have any other Nintendo stuff? And when I asked for PS3 stuff, that was when she pulled out the limited edition of Killer is Dead. So these were two that came from behind the counter because I asked for them. But everything else that you see here was sitting on the floor, including Champions of Norath and Champions Return to Arms. There's also Shadow Hearts that I've already put away in storage. I cleaned that up and put it away. And Shadow Hearts they had there for like $70, but that's a $125 game. And I was already getting 25% off, because in store you get an additional 25% off when you spend $250 or more. So I mean, when you look at it from that perspective, that Shadow Heart Covenants game came in at roughly around $55 or so, $60, and it's a $120 game. So I kind of just did some mental math and tried to just maximize all the coupons and deals that I could when I was in store. And whenever I get the sense that someone's going to be anal or try to say no, or if I feel like they're just going to try to be a hater and not work with me, I'll just leave. You know what I mean? I'll just leave. Thankfully, I've had some pretty decent experiences over the past couple months. And again, that's through just consistently going there and just being there, right place, right time. I don't hit it big every time I go to GameStop, but I go to enough GameStops consistently enough to have success. And there are a lot of YouTubers who go to GameStop a lot. And there are other YouTubers who go to GameStop and they'll show you in store some of the finds that they have. And I've shown on my channel and other videos some of the things that I find in store, like Mario Party 6, Kirby's Air Ride. I've got a bunch of videos showing some of the pickups, but it's really a matter of consistency, knowing the employees, and knowing how to just kind of navigate GameStop's BS. And so, Paul, I know that long-winded explanation probably doesn't help you in your specific area. I don't know where you live. I don't know what your limitations are. And I'm sure you're probably like, well, dude, I don't have 6 GameStops near me. So I don't, or, I don't have those types of employees near me. Every situation is different. I wish GameStop provided the same experience across the board, but they just don't. I saw someone on YouTube, they went into a GameStop and they had like 10 rare Sega Saturn games. I was like, dang, that would be amazing to walk in a GameStop and find Sega Saturn games. But it just so happens that was what was available near that dude. So, it's going to be different strokes for different folks. My main thing is, if you want to take advantage of GameStop, you just kind of have to be consistent. If you want to pick up stuff from their website, you're going to have to check the website consistently as well. I have seasons where I'm going to GameStop a lot, and I have seasons where I'm not going to GameStop at all. I have seasons where I'm checking their website every day, and I have seasons where I don't look at their website at all. But like anything else, it's just consistency, and just kind of knowing how to navigate their BS, because there is a lot of BS that goes on at GameStop. You just kind of have to know how to navigate it. So that does it for me, Paul. Hopefully, everything I said just kind of gives you a little bit of insight, and that's for anyone else who shops at GameStop. Hopefully it gives you a little insight into how I navigate them. And hopefully, over this weekend, if you do plan on doing any game hunting, hopefully you can take some of those techniques and apply them to your shopping strategy, to your game hunting strategy, and you're able to achieve some success. But that does it for me. I'm the Y2K Collector. I've got a lot of testing to do. Hopefully you enjoy this Saturday, make the most of it, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy.